just want to let you guys know this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. If you need to talk to a licensed therapist, be sure to visit BetterHelp. And when you sign up, visit betterhelp.com/juice today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/juice. Be sure to do that, guys. Your well-being is worth it. All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. One final time here before the 2025 NFL Draft is underway. We're bringing on Alex from Hail Mary Sports. Alex, man, it's there. It's time, dude. All the speculation, all of the draft prospects, everybody you've been studying for over the last year, it's finally coming to a head here on Thursday. So exciting stuff, man. How are you feeling? Besides, I know probably exhausted, but how are you feeling overall now, knowing that we finally made it here to the 2025 draft?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. The draft is perfect because we kind of all are starting to get a little bit of prospect fatigue and draft fatigue. And now we're going to be excited because now rather than just saying, oh, we're going to predict where these guys go, we get to see where they go. And then we get a whole bunch of new guys. So I'm super excited for it. But yes, I've earned my Louis Vuitton eye bags for sure. It is going to be, it's a good week. It's a good week. I'm excited for what's happening.
Yeah, I know. I heard, it was like Dane Brugler. He had like this ginormous like draft profile, and he was just like, people are like, what's the biggest thing you're looking forward to, after the draft? And he's like, well, I can actually go outside now and actually be a normal human being. So
Right.
I was like, yeah, well, that's very true with a lot of these things. But Alex, obviously all the talk's going to be around, the top 10 especially. Like, how's that going to shake out? I know we've heard a lot of different stuff over the course of even the last couple of weeks. A lot of things have shifted. Some guys that maybe, were projected to go in the top 10 may not go in the top 10 after all. There may be some guys that do sneak in. And so obviously we're going to focus on the Indianapolis Colts here. But in terms of the top 10, because it does impact Indianapolis, what have you kind of been hearing? What's been the vibe that you've been getting as far as maybe some guys that you think maybe have been projected in the top 10 that may fall out of the top 10,
Right.
maybe even past the Indianapolis Colts at 14, that may shake some things up here?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one is Shedeur Sanders. It looks, especially since some teams are trying to trade out of the top picks, which like Cleveland's listening to some phone calls, New York's apparently listening to some phone calls. It's pretty obvious that Shedeur is going to be slipping, and then the odds continue to slip for him to the Saints and boost for the Steelers, which, I mean, I'm a Steelers guy. Not really the biggest fan of that unless he just falls to us at 21. But regardless, like, it's definitely looking like we're losing a quarterback in the top 10 and even potentially in the top 15. And we're adding another skilled position, which for the Colts implications, probably not as good because, well, you're not going to be drafting Shedeur Sanders. You'd probably be hoping that one of those skilled players would be at your disposal there at pick 14. But outside of that, I mean, Amari Hampton, someone who I love to death, like there's just so many people in the shuffle that it looks like he's being lost. And then you look at Tetro McMillan. Brugler believes that he's going to be going in the top 12. So we're going to see if that ends up remaining the case. But in the most recent Peter Schrager mock draft, he ended up falling all the way to 19. So there's an interesting range there for sure in terms of who's going where.
Yeah. And I know, like, our friend Garrett from Football Analysis, he says, I truly believe the draft starts at 2. So I think we all kind of know where Tennessee is going to go unless just last minute something completely changes there. Right. But, when looking at a couple of these guys, you mentioned some of the skill positions. Who would be some guys that you think maybe are going a little bit earlier than a lot of people had originally projected here, say even a week or a couple weeks ago?
Yeah. So Jalen Walker's the biggest one. All the big heads were talking about how Jalen Walker could go high, but people were just like, okay, it seems like a little bit of smoke. There's not this consensus belief that Jalen Walker is as talented as what, the draft projection says he should be. But when you're looking at the odds for him, and especially for the potential fits, there are a multitude of teams in the top 10 that just make too much sense to the point where they're saying 8 is now the floor, not the ceiling, the floor. It used to be, okay, this is the lock. No, now it's the floor. And I'm really starting to think that the Las Vegas Raiders are going to be the primary destination for him, which is interesting because that has implications on Ashton Genty and whether the Bears would want to trade up. Because right now the rumor is Bears are potentially moving up for him. So, yeah, Jalen Walker's a big one. I mean, Will Campbell being locked in the top 5 now, essentially pretty much everybody believes, and it's like solidified that he is confirmed top 5, which was the case. Like, okay, is he going to be going 5, or is this going to be, or number 4, is he going to be slipping a little bit? So there's certainly those in there. And then I've been hearing a big amount of Kelvin Banks movement. Ben Solak put out a funny tweet saying, like, from, I think it was like pick 7 to pick 11, it was all Kelvin Banks. But yeah, certainly a lot of love for him there.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, just when it comes to Indianapolis, who are some guys that you're maybe thinking could be some fits? Obviously, we know a couple tight ends, but who would be some other guys that maybe could make some sense for them there? Say some of these things do shake up. A guy like Jalen Walker goes a little bit earlier, and a couple other guys go a little bit earlier. What would you say could be some guys that maybe could fall to Indianapolis because of that result?
Yeah, so the biggest one that I would potentially see happening, based on the amount of hype that he's getting as well, and someone who could be pushed into that top 10 range, we've heard the rumors of it, is Mykel Williams. The second edge position for the Colts is not necessarily fully locked down for the future. I think you and I both know that. And Mykel is super young, one of the youngest players in this class. When he's healthy, he's a freak show. And I could see Ballard saying, I have an extra year of development for him behind Kwity Paye, and you don't have to necessarily rush him right away, kind of taking over Dio's spot there. And then you can have that be the long-term role. I know he values edge rusher there as well. So if you're not going to be going tight end, it looks like that could be the route for basically best value available. Maybe not the best player available, but the best value available. Outside of that, I mean, certainly if you see some offensive linemen slip, like Braden Smith, in terms of the long-term future, you have some questions there. Interior offensive line, you had a pretty big shift throughout the offseason, so there's certainly some roles there. So maybe you could see, if you see a Kelvin Banks slip, Ballard's going to say, similar to Latu, maybe it's not the primary position we're focusing on, but it might be the best player on our board, and we're going to go and snag him.
Gotcha. Well, let's go back to the tight ends real quick here, because I have been hearing a little bit, and I don't know how much you've heard about this, but I've been hearing a little bit of more of the Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren, which is something I never thought in my wildest dreams I would ever hear. But here we are, and obviously when you look at, the two prospects, Tyler Warren's a more refined guy. Overall as a player, he's a better run blocker, and I think he's just more refined in his game at this point. While Colston Loveland, a little bit younger, he dealt with an injury last year, and I think he could put on some weight and continue to fill out that frame. But what are your thoughts just on those two guys, specifically at the tight end position, and which of them do you think maybe fits Indy the best here?
Yeah, so I would say Colston Loveland's an interesting idea. First off, the health concern is the shoulder. So if your dream is for him to be in line, that's even more of a potential red flag. I don't know, because a lot of people really love Colston Loveland, and there's some people who say maybe 2 tight ends can go in the top 10. I don't believe that personally, but I do wonder, based on, similar to Jahad Campbell, like these positions that are going to be required to use physicality and grit and your shoulder quite often, how much that's going to affect it. I almost feel like it's smoke more than anything with Colston Loveland, but he's a great receiving tight end that bulked up to about 250 pounds. And that is showing that he has the potential future on an inline rather than just being a slot tight end. Now, his run blocking, like you said, inferior to Warren. His receiving game has a completely different style. He's basically a wide receiver. He's an X-build receiver that is somehow 250 pounds. Like, he's really, really good. It's not to crap on Colston Loveland, but Tyler Warren is the best safety blanket. And when you're still trying to get AR to get his head and ass wired together, you want someone who can be that safety blanket. Conversely, Colston Loveland dealt with a very inaccurate quarterback and still had success. So you can't really go wrong. I would just say Warren gives you the higher floor option, and sometimes you just need to hit a double, maybe not a home run. I would go after the double with Warren, even though people still think he's a home run.
Yeah, gotcha. I guess I've kind of wondered this. I feel like some people have almost said Colston Loveland can't become a good run blocker or just a good blocker in general. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I kind of look at it and say, I mean, the dude was injured last year with that shoulder.
Yeah, he's
and
fine.
If he gets right and he fills out his frame a little bit, I think he could be just fine as a blocker.
Yeah, I think he's so I land perfectly in the middle. I think there's way too much criticism of his blocking, but I also think that there's almost a neglect for the lack of polish with his blocking at the same time. I think he has a future in the NFL especially potentially as an inline. But I do think that the probability, especially early on, might be a little bit farther away than what the super fans say.
What's going on, everybody? Just wanted to say this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Guys, everyone wants to try to take care of their bodies and do the best that they can to help take care of themselves. But that also starts with your mind as well. Your mental health is just as important as your physical health. And of course, when you're doing potential therapy, in-person therapy can cost anywhere up to $100 to $250 per session, guys. That number can add up very quickly. But with BetterHelp, you can save on average up to 50% per session. With BetterHelp, you can pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, which can help you save on costs and time as well. Therapy should feel accessible, guys, not a luxury. You should be able to talk to someone the way you want to, when you want to. With online therapy, you can get quality care at a price that makes sense for you. Regardless, guys, if you have ever been in therapy or not, it is important to be able to get everyday stresses and sometimes even traumas that we experience off our chest and be able to talk to someone and go through those stresses. You know, your mental health is super important. We're all dealing with something. So take advantage and be able to get ahead of what might be bothering you. Remember, guys, your well-being is worth it, and it's now within reach. Visit betterhelp.com/juice today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/juice.
Gotcha. Well, then you move on to round 2 for the Indianapolis Colts, and I could see, I would say 3 positions, maybe even 4 that I would talk about here. You talk about the linebacker position, EJ Speed, you let him walk in free agency, so you haven't needed that weak side linebacker position to pair alongside Zaire Franklin. And then obviously offensive line, which you've talked about as well. That is definitely a need. I would say I would even throw in defensive line, maybe an edge, or maybe even a defensive interior guy. And maybe even the wild card for me, Alex, would be running back there on day 2. So I don't know. Who are some guys there that you look as some potential fits here for the Colts and would make some sense for them? Say they go tight end, they take Loveland or Warren. Who would be some other guys that you're looking at here and you're like, these would be really good fits?
Yeah, so there's a big range on this player from even potentially being a top 10 selection all the way to falling to the mid-second, and that's Walter Nolan. The question is the off-field character concerns, are they going to push him down, or is a defensive coach going to love the base floor and get his head and ass wired together to be a better professional and end up getting someone that they really love? So I am leaning a little bit more towards him potentially slipping. And I don't know if he ever gets out of the first round. I could not see how he ending up allowing that to happen, but there is a chance where, character concerns push players down every single year. Jerzon Newton ended up having that last year at the defensive tackle position. Could happen. Walter Nolan would be the guy in the second round that I would be trying to target. There is some questions over whether Derek Harmon's knee is 100%. His medicals are not 100% positive. So maybe he ends up slipping. That would be where I'd be focusing on the defensive interior side. When you're looking at the edge rushing position, Lou loves his big edge rushers, right? So I was talking about Michael earlier. He has that frame at 260 plus. If you want to go a little bit safer than Michael, you can go all the way to Ohio State, which, has a couple guys that Lou ended up having to deal with, which is a good thing. And you get JT Tuimoloau. And JT Tuimoloau, very reliable edge rusher, really good edge too. I think the offensive line might be the best focal point. Now, if you see Josh Simmons' knee be a big concern and he starts slipping, that provides you both a guard instantly as well as right tackle potential. He played right tackle in 2022. So I do like that quite a bit right there for the Colts, of potentially being able to snipe a player that you could give a little bit of time, but I think you'd be the best offensive lineman you have, which is a huge win. Also, Donovan Jackson, his teammate, he was a left guard, transitioned to left tackle, so you had the tackle upside there. You can end up putting him at guard in the short run, and if injuries do occur, you have that redundancy as well. Outside of that, I do have some concerns over the rest of the group. I mean, not all of them are spring chickens either. I love Anthony Belton, but he's going to be 24 years old, or he might be already 24 years old. So not a young guy, but someone who I love the ferocity, the mobility, and just an absolute mauler, I should say. But yeah, if you go tight end early, those are probably the guys I'd be looking at.
Gotcha. Well, so just looking overall on this draft, I mean, I've heard a little bit, but I'm curious what your thoughts are here, Alex, especially for the Colts outside of round one.
Yeah.
What you mentioned, like offensive line, that's definitely one I've heard about. But what are some other positions that you think, like, typically in a normal draft, like this guy shouldn't be available here at this certain spot? But if he is and the Colts take him, he could be a big, massive find here for a team, specifically the Colts here, that you're like, that would be like a huge swing here that they get for kind of a low risk sort of pick here.
Yeah, so honestly, we were mentioning linebacker earlier, and technically I could have mentioned guys like Carson Schwezinger for the second round, but if we want to dig a little bit deeper and somebody who I think could be an absolute home run who fits in perfectly into that will spot, it's someone who's right down the road, Jack Kaiser, linebacker from Notre Dame, someone who I have a lot of faith in, and he's going to fit in right away. Really good coverage skills, got an interception in 7-on-7 at the Senior Bowl. So, really good guy, high character player. People love him. Solid mobility. He showed out in 2023, and honestly, in my opinion, I think that he just went very under the radar here in 2024. I think that would be a good home run hit for day 3. If you're going to be looking at some other positions, I mean, there's a guy named Luke Kandra who I am an absolute super fan of. We've talked about him on the show as well. High anchor, heavy run blocking, awesome offensive lineman that could end up, giving you some really, really, really good contribution early. Now, for running back side, because I know you mentioned this earlier, like running back, day 3 is littered with them. That's why I would try to lean away from it in round 2, even though I understand the sentiment there. There's players like LeQuint Allen from Syracuse that I love. Amazing blocker, like top tier pass protection, which is kind of crazy because he's also under 21 years old, one of the youngest players in the class. He's also a high-end receiver. Might not be a home run hitting threat because he's not a great athlete, but I think that he's explosive enough in short range to be able to provide a lot of early down and third down work to where you can end up actually keeping some tread on the tires.
Awesome. Well, sounds good, Alex. We'll have to see, man, what does happen, but do appreciate your time and just overall your thoughts this offseason here on the Indianapolis Colts. And hopefully they do come away with some really good players and maybe some players we even mentioned here. It'll be fun to see. It's kind of been nice, man. I was kind of telling Derek, it's nice to have somebody who's dove into these prospects a lot, and so it can give us a better idea on who to look for outside of round 1. Like, who are some guys that we want to see the Colts targeting here? So always appreciate your work, man, and everything that you're doing. Curious, what are your plans during the draft? Like round 1, round 2, round 3? I'm assuming you're going to watch all of it. So what are your plans for that weekend?
Yeah, so I'm going to be live streaming the whole time. It's going to be an absolute shit show, but it's going to be a fun one. I'm probably going to be doing it solo day 1, but I'm going to have my boy Broshmo there for days 2 and 3. So it's going to be a good vibe. And so we're going to be doing content after as well for grading the drafts. And, after the draft as well, we're going to be able to, do a lot of recaps, which I'm going to bring you guys back on for us to discuss it. So, it's going to be exciting. Just a lot of work, but it's, we've been working all year for it. It's about time.
Right. Exactly. I think were you the one that posted, you said, is it crazy for me to drop a 2026 mock draft yet?
2027.
I can't remember if that was you or 2027. Oh gosh.
Do you know I have the graphics ready for it?
Oh my word. Are you serious?
Shit, it's ready. I'm not even joking. Like, I debated dropping it tomorrow, just out of shits and gigs. But yeah, I already have a 2026 up. I think I've done 3 of them at this point.
Wow.
It's nuts. But yeah, 2027 is loaded up too.
Man, excited to see that, man. Well, guys, go check out Alex. Be sure to go tune in for him that whole weekend as well. So that'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you as always, Alex. Guys, if you haven't, go check out Hail Mary Sports. What are you doing? But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much. And as always, go Colts.